Okay, Uma, according to your point of view, what do you think, for example, is good or is bad the teacher speak all the time in English? Is good or bad from your perspective for the students?
I think it's really good, even though it's very hard and you might not understand everything. Learning a language, learning anything, you need to challenge yourself. And if something is easy, you're never going to get better at it. So it needs to have that level of challenge and be a bit hard. So I think that if you're learning a language, it's really important that the teacher only speaks in the target language. I think maybe the only time that they could switch back into your native language would be if you really don't understand something. But it's really important that you sort of train your ears to be able to understand their accent, to be able to pick up on different words. And yeah, you can always ask questions. So I think,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I think the same. At first, in short time, yes, or short term, sorry, is going to be hardest.
Definitely.
Maybe in middle term, this is making easier. In long term, you are going to get the goal.
Exactly.
To understand all the things in English. Even you are going to get the capacity to interact in English. So yeah, maybe you have to be consistency
Yeah,
in this kind
exactly.
of things and have enough discipline in order to your English or yes becoming good enough. Yes, because yes, sometimes students at the schools say teacher is we don't understand anything and it makes they lose motivation at first, but after just maybe 4 months or something like that, they start to understand in good way and they become to recover that consistency or discipline or motivation.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that for me personally, learning languages, I have found that it's sort of weird. The times that I feel the worst at the language, the times that I don't feel confident and I think, oh, I don't know anything, that's actually just before I see a big improvement. So it's like it comes and goes in phases. And sometimes I think, oh, my Spanish is really bad. But then it's because I'm getting better. And the better you get and the higher level you have, the more that you know. So the more you realize that there's more to know, and you realize that, oh, I want to know this, I want to know this. So you see the language as a bigger thing rather than at the start when you're just learning a few words, a bit of grammar. It seems manageable, but the further you get, the sort of more motivation, well, for me, the more motivation I have to learn more because I can see that, oh, I didn't know this before and now I want to know this. So I don't know.
Definitely, this hardest point is which define if you are going to be able to be successful with the process or not. Because if you are able to pass that hardest point, you are going to achieve the goal.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's great to know that. Yes, I lived something like that because when I was studying English, when I have spent maybe 16 months, I found that kind of breaking point when we want to stop the process because sometimes we feel we are not good enough in that kind of things and we want to change the subject we are learning, in this case English or something like that. I think this kind of thing happen in any process in our lives. Yeah, definitely this point defines if we are going to get the goal. Yes.
Yeah, but then I think you have to remember just before you find it easier, it is going to be harder. And it's so satisfying to realize how much you've learned and to suddenly think of a word and notice that you didn't know that word a week ago and now you know it and you can use it. It's really satisfying in
Yes,
languages.
exactly.
Mhm.
Even sometimes we find proud
Yeah,
about this kind of challenge that we have overcome.
exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
because yeah, it's not easy now. Anybody has the opportunity to speak another language.
Hmm.
Yes, sometimes people judge about your English is not good enough, but they are not able to speak or interact. Yes,
Hmm.
to express their idea, their thought in another language. So
Hmm.
yeah, yes, in my case, I feel proud
Yeah.
because I was self-taught. I haven't paid anything to learn English.
Oh, wow.
I have learned by myself,
Hmm.
and yeah, of course, to get this level, it makes me I feel proud of that.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, in your case, when you, for example, interact in French, Spanish, uh, do you feel proud of yourself, or is something, I don't know, maybe something special for you or not?
Yeah, I think it's definitely special because, as you say, it's not common these days to be able to speak another language. And I think it's really cool, and that we forget how cool it is and how special it is. Um, I think sometimes it's easy to forget, and I think, like, oh, my Spanish isn't that good. But then when I think, no, I'm living in Colombia, and like, even though I don't speak as much Spanish as I probably should, I'm still having to interact to get by in my day to day life in Spanish. So that's quite cool.
Definitely, yeah,
uh,
definitely, yeah. I have that opportunity to interact in a second language, in this case English. This is really, really cool.
mhm.
Yes, because it's yeah, many people that I have met, they try to study English and be successful in this process, and they gave up after, I don't know, 4 months or 3 months, and they don't have enough consistency. And I think this process has to be seen in long term if you want to be successful.
Definitely. Yeah, I always, at university, whenever we had like a speaking exam, there were some people who tried to cram for the exam. They tried to do all of the revision at the last minute, but languages can never be like that. It's a gradual process. Your level will come and go, it will fluctuate, and that's normal. Like, everyone will experience that. There's nobody who can suddenly speak the language or can, from one week to the next, 1 month to the next, become fluent. Like, that's just not realistic. So it's quite important to remember that when you're learning, to feel better about yourself and, yeah, not lose hope, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Usually, I try to give one advice, or yes, I don't know, maybe one tip is you need to speak, and uh, don't shy, because, for
Hmm.
example, of course, when we are speaking in a second language, third, fourth, or whatever, we in this process always make mistakes.
Yeah.
The idea or the key point here, I think, from my perspective, is try to identify that kind of mistake
Hmm.
and correct them.
Yeah.
In that way, we are going to be improving,
Yeah.
making mistake.
Definitely.
Yes.
Self correction is also really important. And I know that when I was at university studying languages, the teachers loved it when we self corrected. Like, it was kind of even more impressive to them than if we'd said it correctly in the first place. Um, and yeah, I think that having the confidence, going back to what we were saying about only speaking English in the classroom, that's quite nerve wracking. It's quite scary at first because then all of the students have to speak in English. And yeah, when you're first learning a language is scary, you don't have much confidence, but the sooner you become used to using that language, the better, really.
Yeah, yeah. And I think now it's easier to learn a second language because we can find a lot of resources on internet.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of resources, podcasts, videos, commentaries, whatever. But we have to be careful with the material that we choose at the time to learn a second language because if you, for example, choose a material which is uh, higher than your level,
Mm-hmm.
you are not going to understand much and you are going to lose motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But in the contrary, if you, for example, or opposite, for example, choose a material which are lower than our level, we are going to understand, but we are not going to advance more.
Exactly.
Yes. So maybe that material or those material, if necessary, they are according our level. Yes.
Definitely. Um, but I also think it's important to have a variety of subject matter, to watch videos or read things that are on a variety of topics. And sometimes it's hard, like, say you picked a certain newspaper to read and you were finding it too easy, but you didn't notice that you were finding it too easy. Sometimes it's hard to identify when you should move on to the next level. But I guess if you're studying, you can always check with the teacher, what level am I? Um, what do you recommend that I watch or read? And find your level that way.
Yeah, and other thing that we have to take into account is not everybody needs to go or to follow the same road
No, definitely not.
because maybe we have different ways to learn. Yes.
Yeah. For example, even with things just like some people prefer to listen to music when they're studying, some people don't. Or, yeah, there are many different ways. Like, for me, I find music really useful because if you memorize a song, you, without realizing it, you memorize the lyrics and then you think, oh, what does that mean? And sometimes it's happened to me that I've memorized a song and I only know the lyrics like phonetically. I don't actually know what they mean. But then the next time I hear that word, I think, oh, that was in that song. And you can kind of figure out the meaning by yourself. Or, I don't know, some people prefer to be able to, it's quite useful to listen while you're reading or watch something while reading a transcript. Some people find that really helpful. But yeah, there are so many, it's so easy to do that online nowadays that it's quite easy to find your way.
Yeah, in my case, I have met people who have learned English with music,
Yeah.
like you described, with TV shows,
Yeah.
and for people who have the opportunity to travel abroad.
That is kind of the best way, but it's
Yeah,
also
but
the
people
hardest.
that they have the opportunity to do immersion.
Yeah.
Yes, and people like me who have learned English with a method which was made for people who want to learn English by themselves was a book. And my particular case, I spent 2 years studying that book, investing, I don't know, 1 or 2 hours every single day, even weekends.
Yeah.
And that means, I don't know, with that I have gotten this level that I have today. And of course, I try to take my English to the next level. And yes, even today, I try to study, listen podcasts, and to be exposed with English. Yes, consuming English almost all the time that I have the opportunity to do it. Take advantage, for example, when I'm waiting for someone, when I'm in a line, or when even in the public transportation system. Try to take advantage of those spaces in order to improve my English. And I try to recommend this kind of exercise for my students because it's a good way to improve. I think it's the fastest way to improve to be exposed to English. In your case, Spanish.
Yeah, for it to be the norm, like for it to be normal and a consistent part of your life. And what you said about doing like an hour or 2 hours a day of English, even just 10 minutes. When I was in school, I had a really good Spanish teacher, and he kept telling us, right, when you get home, just do 10 minutes of vocabulary revision, just look at your vocabulary book, maybe copy out the words, say them out loud so you practice pronunciation. And he said 10 minutes a day. And of course, when I was in school, I was like, I'm not doing that. 10 minutes is too much. But now I realize that it's so easy to do, like just find a tiny amount of time, and it's just any amount of time every day is going to really help you. So
yeah, but now we have an issue here. Is people or youngest or teenagers, they invest much time in social media, and sometimes I suggest them, okay, avoid to use social media and invest this time in English. Yes, because I don't know, maybe social media is something bad for experience right now. Of course, sometimes they take advantage of those social medias or that social media because interact in English or something like that. But many people or students, learners, they waste time in social media.
yeah, and I think it's very easy to do so. Like it's very addictive, but it also damages our attention span, which is quite an important tool that we need to learn languages. But I have seen recently, it's been quite interesting. I've seen videos that talk about the importance of memes, of meme culture. So, like jokes, joke videos, or images with text on them that are often in slang or that reference parts of the like English speaking culture. So I've seen people say that memes are actually quite useful for language learning because they not only teach you that slang, but maybe they teach you acronyms as well, um, and they teach you the culture and the humor of the country, like that has the language that you're trying to learn. So that's like one side of social media that can be very useful, but you have to be careful about how you use it, how much you use it, and also how much you trust. Because on social media, sometimes I've seen people who are teaching English, but they're making mistakes. So you have to be quite careful.
Yes, yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We find a lot of teachers, even they teach English, they make mistakes when they are speaking. Or
But I think that is good for the students as well because it shows students that even the teacher isn't perfect, nobody's perfect.
Yes, exactly.
You're going to make mistakes, like
even in our mother language, we make mistakes sometimes when we are
exactly.
speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same in English.
yeah, of course. It's really important to keep in mind that things because yes, some students want to be perfect. And I sometimes even in our mother language sometimes we make mistakes, no matter. Yes. So yeah. Other important thing that we can find in social media is we can find programs or whatever that they are not focusing teach English. And when we find that kind of programs, videos, whatever, is more difficult for because they speak in a spontaneous way, and it's really harder because students are used to uh, consume programs which are related with teach English and they can speak clear, more so clear, in good way, slow. But when we watch some video or something like that, which is not related with English learning or something like that, they speak in spontaneously way, and I think it's harder. And it is really really good for students, maybe they are in, I don't know, B1, B2 or something like that, because it helps to the student to take your listening to the next level and understand other ways that people say it spontaneously.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, even though it's hard, it's important to get a variety of levels. Um, Even if it's a 10-minute video and you only understand half of it, it's still helping you, it's exposing you to a different kind of English, a different accent. Um, yeah, and as you say, it's more spontaneous. If it's like a vlog, like somebody's just telling you about their life, telling you about their day, they're probably using slang, they're probably phrasal verbs, they're using contractions.
We use, yeah, kinetic speech.
Yeah, exactly. Or using fillers like the word like,
Yes.
or like a more natural way to speak. So it is important, even if it's really hard. And with YouTube now, you can usually put subtitles on. So
Yes, and sometimes when I watch that kind of video, something like that, I try to mimic.
yeah,
Try to mimic them because, yeah, in order to sound a little bit more natural.
yeah, that's a good technique.
Okay, okay, nice.